The broadcast is now starting.
Hello and welcome to Sage Intacct Planning Academy for the healthcare industry. My name is Sal Catalano. I am a senior solutions consultant. We are going to get started momentarily. Thank you so much. Okay, we are going to go ahead and get started. So welcome. So today we are going to be giving you a brief overview of Sage Intacct Planning. We'll talk about financial planning and analysis, which is where this tool takes budgeting to that next level. And then we'll go into a demo. I have a colleague that will be monitoring the chat questions. So please feel free to ask your questions and we'll do our best to get to them during the webinar. But if we need to follow up, we will do that with you as well. Okay. Okay. Well, embracing the motto of if we live, we plan. Sage Intacct Planning becomes your invaluable tool to kickstart your planning process quickly and effectively. With our solution, you can hit the ground running and embark on your planning journey with confidence. Sage Intacct Planning revolutionizes the planning process by offering a cloud-based solution that eliminates the drawbacks of uncontrolled, inflexible, and insecure spreadsheets. Instead, it provides a real-time single source of truth, empowering businesses to make agile and confident decision-making. By leveraging our platform, you can say goodbye to limitations and risks that are associated with spreadsheets. You gain access to a dynamic planning environment that ensures data accuracy, consistency, and security. With real-time updates and centralized repository of information, you can make informed decisions quickly and with confidence. Many of our customers rely on our solution to enhance their annual planning process and augment it with monthly forecasting. Without platform, they gain instant access to powerful what-if scenarios, enabling them to make informed decisions on the fly. Additionally, our system allows them to create driver-based plans with remarkable granularity, going down to individual employee level or any other detail necessary. By integrating seamlessly with Sage Intacct Core Financials, planning provides a holistic experience. You can easily access comprehensive reporting and analysis, enabling you to gain valuable insights into your financial performance. Our platform empowers businesses to streamline their planning procedures, leverage monthly forecasts, and harness the power of what-if scenarios, all while maintaining a robust connection to your Sage Intacct Core Financials. Our core features revolve around being able to save you a lot of time, to be agile, and allow you to move quickly to make changes as your company grows or simply respond to any market changes. For example, as a healthcare organization, you may want to increase services. Imagine how easy it would be to create a scenario that includes the revenues for that new service and provide you with the information on staffing requirements or other resources. What if there's a risk of losing revenue? You can simply create a scenario and see in real time how those changes will affect your budget. Another core feature is that you can always trust the numbers. You can feel confident that numbers are rolling up correctly without having to worry about whether there are any mistakes in your formula of your Excel document. In my prior professional life, I spent over a decade in the finance department of various industries. I gotta admit that I sometimes used to spend more time footing and checking my formulas than I did actually creating budgets. It happened only once where my formula became corrupted, if you will, because I shared the budget with a department head and he inadvertently changed something that threw off my calculations. It was a nightmare. And I think most of you can attest to how we guard our Excel spreadsheets. My favorite feature is to be able to collaborate in real time with directors, department heads, and other budget stakeholders. Imagine having the right people access Sage Intacct Planning and make changes, provide supporting details, roll up those numbers to the appropriate categories, then take those numbers and bring them back into the general ledger for budget to actual analysis. I remember my finance team used to spend a couple of hours a week communicating with department heads and managers, providing them with budget to actual, when this data could have been available through a dashboard. Sage Intacct Planning is easy to use, whether your stakeholders have a strong financial background or not. They can participate and be responsible for how they run their budgets. These features will truly take the accountant role and elevate it to a more proactive approach to financial planning and analysis. You're no longer working on your budget only during budget season. With Sage Intacct Planning, you can devote a few hours a month and be ready to make changes quickly and easily. When we think about what sets Sage Intacct Planning apart from other planning software, we lead with these 4 items: self-discoverable, connected, powerful, and collaborative. What we mean by being self-discoverable is the ease of setup and use. Typical planning and budgeting users want a tool that is easy to deploy. The intuitive and user-friendly tools are designed to be fully managed by the finance end user and with no need for any IT or admins to ever get involved. The connected item speaks to the user-friendly planning wizard, which provides intelligent mapping and syncs with your Sage Intacct core financials. If your organization does not have a dedicated financial planning and analysis resource, these functions are being carried out by the controller or finance managers. The bidirectional integration between Sage Intacct Planning and Sage Intacct Core means that you can make a change to a scenario and quickly and easily merge that new scenario back into your Intacct Core financials. The powerful driver-based modeling, what-if scenarios, and rolling forecasts let you see the impact of your decisions immediately. Imagine being in a budget meeting and being able to update and create what-if scenarios on the fly. Think about how quickly any decision can be made if that data that supports your assumptions is updated in real time, where everyone can see the results immediately. The collaborative nature of the tool allows you to engage with the right people, the right data at the right time. I like to add a 5th item to this to mention its affordability. You get world-class planning functionality software that is priced 50% lower than most competitors. If you think about how much time is spent on budgeting and planning, this will pay for itself. Not having to be concerned with errors that are inherent with Excel, for example, or being approached by the CEO about making small change in assumptions revolutionizes the financial planning and analysis process. When we talk about the connection between Sage Intacct Planning and Sage Intacct, we have what we call the bidirectional integration, meaning information flows either from planning into Sage Intacct or from Sage Intacct into planning. It's important to note that the integration is initiated through Sage Intacct Planning in either case. I'll show you how that works when we get into the demo. Imagine, if you will, creating a budget from scratch where we use the data from a given period that is in your Sage Intacct Core financials, take that data, make changes to it, share it with other key stakeholders, and quickly and easily have a budget. As you can see on this slide, whatever information that is in your core financial general ledger in terms of dimensions, you'll have the opportunity to enter budgets on those items. Keep in mind that if there are accounts in Sage Intacct that are not in Sage Intacct Planning, you will automatically be prompted during the import process to map those into the planning. The export function works similarly. You'll see that one can create a new budget with all the accounts and dimensions mapped appropriately. You also have the option of mapping any new dimensions that don't exist in Intacct. For example, if you want a budget line item that doesn't exist in Sage Intacct, just like in the import function, you will automatically be prompted to map those during the export process. The planning tool that stands out, or this, I should say, this tool stands out because of one crucial element, and that is that it brings in this financial planning and analysis process. When I was a CFO and I was using Excel to manage my budgets, we typically spent 2 to 3 months on creating a budget for the following fiscal year. Once that budget was approved, we spent the remainder of the year just looking at the budget to actual analysis. With this added FP&A element, we're providing the finance team with tools that can help with strategic planning, forecasting, and analysis. It truly serves as a link between the organization's overall strategy, its financial resources, and its operational execution. The financial planning and analysis tool improves visibility by helping your organization understand critical financial issues and opportunities. It helps you respond to market and organizational changes. It'll influence and inform senior leaders, board members, and department heads by giving them a better understanding of how financing and resources are being utilized. It'll allow you to drive change throughout the organization. Sage Intacct Planning is a complete solution for your organization's success. I'm not going to go line by line on this slide. I wanted to include it just to give you a summary of the benefits. I believe some of the benefits that stand out for me personally were the advanced modeling, which I'll show you in the demo, the what if scenarios, and rolling forecasts. But you can see here, there's many more options that really make your life easier depending on your organization. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to go into my demo. Okay. So right now I am in the Sage Intacct Planning. You can see I have the tab open in my browser. And I am in, and you can see here, there's a menu up here, dashboard, sheets, inputs, and actuals. On the left-hand side, you have the opportunity to see all the budgets that you have. You can create a new budget by just clicking on this new budget button and start working. So the first thing is I'll just show you on this dashboards area here, you'll see that, again, just like a dashboard of a car, it gives you real-time data. And what you'll see throughout the software here is that there's going to be opportunities for you to limit the information via filters. And right now, I just want to point out that the dimensions that I have for this particular database is really just departments and locations. But just keep in mind that whatever dimensions you have in your Sage Intacct Core Financials, you'll see them reflected here as an option to limit the information when you want, if you want to see it by a certain department or by a specific location. Okay, so if you're doing projects or programs, you'll also see that option there. If you have any user-defined dimensions, you'll be able to filter on those as well. Okay, now I want to show you here that once you have this, and I'll keep my menu here up on top, on these right-hand area, I have this opportunity to connect to Sage Intacct, and it's simple by just clicking this button and allowing you to type in my password. And now I've got some options here. If I'm already working on this budget, I can simply click on this option to import actuals into Sage Intacct. I can export my budget into Sage Intacct or import statistical data from Sage Intacct. Okay, so you've got these options to do that. I'm not going to hit next here, but what it will do is this is what I mentioned about having the wizard that will guide you through this process. Okay. Now, once the data is connected and you brought it back, and I want to show you here, up here, I have my Sage Intacct available. And I want to show you that anytime you bring your budget over from Sage Intacct Planning into Sage Intacct, they will exist in this budgets area under budgets repository. All of your budgets are going to be in here. So you can see there's a worst case scenario, there's a best case scenario, forecasting, all of these budgets. You're not limited, so you can keep on updating this as you wish. And then once it's in Sage Intacct, this is where really when I say most of the power from reporting perspective will allow you to do certain things. So for example, if once it's in here, now I can come in here and if I just show you an options on my dashboards, analysis and planning, and if I'm looking at a particular P&L, I can see here that if I hit my edit button, I have an opportunity here to go to my columns and choose the column and decide if I want which budget from my repository screen to include in this particular financial statement. Okay, so again, all these columns are available in Sage Intacct and you have the opportunity to bring them in. So if you want to bring in more than one budget in different columns to compare, maybe a modified budget or a forecasted budget, anything like that, you'd be able to easily put that in there from this repository, which in turn came from the Sage Intacct Planning. Okay, I'm going to cancel here. And now I just want to show you another thing here that I think is really cool is that if you are looking at a dashboard and you can see some of these are hyperlinks, I can simply click on something that I am interested in. If I want to know some more details, I could potentially just click on the number that I'm looking for and notice that it's opened up another tab here on my browser. And now I have an opportunity to dig down to that particular number to see where it came from. And if there are any notes in there or a threaded comment, I'd be able to see that information on the bottom. Okay, so very easy to do that from Sage Intacct. I'm going to close that. Just go back to my original one. Excuse me. Up here, I want to continue with some of the menus here up on top. We also have the capability of sharing. So this is great because if you want to share your budget, obviously with other key stakeholders, I can click on share. And once I get this option here, all I need to do is type in an email address and I can give them an opportunity to either view or modify. And what I love, taking this a bit further, is by clicking on this advanced feature, I also have additional options to include or exclude. But this is my favorite, where it says exclude lines. You could potentially just decide that I want to share this whole budget, but there are some things that I don't want them to see. I don't want them to see maybe salary and wages. And so you can keep on clicking items that you don't want to see to add this to this exclusion line. So very easy to share from that perspective, and knowing that the information that you don't want anybody to see, they won't see it. Okay. I'll also note that throughout the software, you'll see these information icons, which really just provide you some more support on that particular function. Okay, so you'll see that just by hovering over, you can see additional items. Okay. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to show you here is on the Sheets area. This is where the reporting happens. And again, just like we saw in the dashboards, we have the opportunity of seeing the filtering that's available, again, by dimensions. We also have multiple currencies. So if you have budgets in different currencies, we can accommodate that. We can also see the budget by itself. We also have the opportunity to see budget versus actuals, providing that you brought your actuals in. So you've got a column for your actuals, working budget, and then variances. And I can expand this tree by simply clicking on this, and just going further and further, I can see what makes up these particular lines. Okay. Now, the next item is in the inputs area. And this is kind of like where I think the magic happens, or at least the details, I should say. So again, depending on how the structure is set up on your Sage Intacct Core, you'll have an opportunity to mimic some of that, where if I just collapse these, you can see that in this particular case, I have it done by location. But as I expand, I can see each one and go down to the actual level of a budget line. Okay, so I'm going to just show you a couple of things here so you can see some things. I'm going to go into, let's just say, office supplies. Now, every time you click on one of these items, this landing page appears that gives you information, or an opportunity, if you will, to type in information about what you want to do for your budget. So in this case, it's a monthly budget. I have an option to do once, quarterly, annually. I can also do same amount each month, or I can do a growth, where you can type in an amount and then use a percentage to grow it each month. Or you can type it in the way that I have it here, where you can just update this, and you notice as soon as I click on it, it automatically updates those numbers for me. As I scroll down, you have an opportunity to see the date range. So if you are working on a budget for multiple years, you'd be able to expand that and create the budget for the years that you wish. As I continue to scroll down, I have an opportunity to see dimensions. Again, let's not get hooked up on these dimensions here, because whatever dimensions you have on your Sage Intacct Core, you'll see them reflected here. And what I love about this is that you have the opportunity here to do allocations. So when you do have an item that you want to allocate either by department or by location, you can do that. You can either put it in a percentage, or you can also allocate by department head. Okay, and it gives you further options of whether or not you want to do it by employee or all employees or things like that. Okay, as I keep scrolling down, I have an opportunity to see these advanced cash and recognition options. And what this does is this guides your cash forecast. So Sage Intacct Planning will be able to give you a cash forecast, and it's driven by this area here. So what this is saying here is that I can choose when I'm going to pay these amounts. So if I'm not going to pay it in the first month, I can put in the percentages of when I will pay it, and then that will be calculated or to be used as a calculation when you want to process your cash flow statement. And this also, right now, I am in an expense item, but it would also be available for the revenue side as well. So from revenue recognition to also when an expense is actually paid. Okay. And then down here, there's a comments area, which provides you an opportunity to just type in your comments. And this is a threaded comment. And this works really well because as you do share your budget, if people make changes to their budget, they can support their answers by just creating a comment that will be available for anyone to see. Okay. All right. Now, in this particular place, I want to just scrolling back up because I want to show you a couple of other things. Right now, we're in the budget type is called an expense. But I just want to show you that there's a whole bunch of budget types here that really are geared to make your life easier. So we have some things that are groups, and a group is something that, let's say, for example, you want to group some activities or we'll use conference as an example. Maybe you have one line on your budget line that says conferences, but you want it broken down for budgeting purposes for each conference. So you can have all the conferences listed as part of your budget, but they all roll up to your conference budget line item in your Sage Intacct Core. Salary and wages allows you to create salary and wages with things. I'll show you what that's going to look like in a moment, where you can do things like benefits and taxes and things like that. And there's a whole bunch more that I really recommend that you kind of look at because they do make your life easier. There's one for a per new employee expense. So let's say there's some recruiting costs for a new employee. Every time there's a new employee, there's some expenses associated with it. You can create this so that anytime you add a new employee, this added expense will be included in your budget as part of that process. So you don't have to go back and think, oh, you know what? Every time I hire somebody, I know that I have to buy a laptop. I know that I have to do this. Those things are things that you can control by just setting them and forgetting about them in a way, because you can feel confident that they're going to be added into the budget. Okay. I want to show you another one that there's derived expense. I think I have an example here for legal and accounting. And the idea here is, let's say one of and this might be a good example, your legal and accounting expense is derived from your revenues. With the idea being when your revenues go up or whatever the revenues are, there's a percentage share that really belongs to legal and accounting, and that's a good estimate. So I can create this budget line item, and you can see here that it says calculate using, and I've got an option to choose what item I want to use as a calculation. So if I click on this item here, I can see, and then that puts it in, and then I just put in my percentage, and it'll automatically calculate that expense for me. Okay, and then again, as I scroll down, you start to see that similar stuff that we saw earlier. We didn't have the depreciation earlier, but if it's a depreciable expense, you can choose to do that here and identify the asset type and the usage date. Okay, so lots of cool tools that really help you, just make your job easier. Excuse me. All right. Another thing I want to share here is that I showed you how to share a budget from this perspective, which shares the whole budget. But let's say that I want to just share my general and admin with the person who's in charge of just this particular budget in this department. I could potentially just click on those three little dots here and choose share. And then I've got that same item that we saw a few moments ago, except that up here, if you notice, it says just sharing general and admin. And then even still, I still have the ability to go ahead and decide that I don't want them to see the salaries. I want to see everything else, but not the salaries. Okay. And then again, it's just as easy as deciding whether it's view or modify. Okay, so the next thing I'll show you is just to kind of go over those salaries that I just mentioned. So you have the capability of bringing in all of your employees. And this is what I want to show you here is that just like that expense line I showed you, for the salary, we have a different landing page, which just gives you additional information. Things like the role, employee ID, the base salary. And here's what I was talking about, the benefits percentage, employment taxes right there. You can put the percentage there, whether there's going to be a bonus. And you can see all this information, how it translates by just clicking on this detail. And I can see that this is bonus taxes and benefits. You can also create a multiple employee. So if you're ramping up a particular department, you can do that, add that to the budget and decide, okay, this is how many employees I'm going to add with the salaries and the benefits all associated with those. Makes it really easy to manage when you're creating a budget, or in this case, which I'm going to show you in a minute, where you can create scenarios. Okay, and this is an example of that recruiting cost that I talked about. Again, this is a per new employee expense that's really just based on the head count from a specific department. Okay, so in this case, they had one new employee, and then one in February, March, and then 4 in May, and so on and so forth. Okay, I also want to mention here that while you're able to do these changes the way that I'm doing them by just simply clicking on this, there is also an opportunity to look at these tables where I can see all of the employees regardless of the tree that we just saw. So if you want to work in a format that's similar to Excel, you can potentially just click on there to see. You can add employees. You can make changes to what department, what dimensions they're located in. Whatever changes you need to make, you can make them from the screen as well. Okay. And if I just go back to my main, I also just want to mention that there's another feature here as well. From this perspective, if I go to any one of these other items on the upper right-hand area here where it says grid entry, I can simply click on this, and now I can see this from, again, just sort of like an Excel format where I can go ahead and make changes if it's just a regular item, or I can just double click on an item and, oh, that's the wrong one, excuse me. If I want to click on an item specific, it will open up an opportunity for me to make the changes. Okay, so there's lots of ways to affect changes and manage your budget in a way that's useful for you. Okay, now what I've just said basically is that if you're doing this in Excel, that there's lots of just from what I've just shown right now. There's lots of benefits if I just stop right there, because again, you're having the opportunity to share the budget. You have that collaborative. You've got that one source of truth, that connected feature. All of those things are available. But what I think for me, what takes this to that other level is just like I mentioned earlier, excuse me, and that is in the planning, right? The financial planning and analysis. And this is where this model feature comes in. And so what this does is that you can create a model, and I will choose this staffing one here for nurse, for example. And so what this allows us to do is that it allows us to create assumptions. And so let's say we've got an assumption that we're going to see this many patients. This is the hourly wage. This is hours per month. And then what we can do is come up with a model line that uses those assumptions to calculate items. So if I wanted to figure out what the staffing ratio is, daily average patient volume, staffing requirement, what those things, and these are all things that allow you, for example, to put in, and even this nursing cost, for example, if I click on this, you can see here that we have the capability of creating these calculations similar to what you would do in Excel, where you've got the if formulas, you've got the sum total, rounding, and you can use these assumptions to calculate those particular costs. And so what's nice about it is that once you have that connected, and you'll see here that, you can see on this particular line that I have here for nursing costs that it says that it's linked. And what that means is that that's linked to a particular budget line item that's specific, to my budget. And so whatever changes I make to these assumptions will reflect that and will change that budget line item automatically. So think about those kinds of things that, again, this is the added feature that is easy to use. And if you're using Excel to do this, or if you're not using Excel, but you're kind of doing some of this in your head, this is a great way to put it all in one place. Same thing if you're looking for reimbursement rates. If you want to make some calculations based on that, you can do that. You can get as creative as you wish because you've got that opportunity to do those calculations like I just showed you. Okay, and then those numbers can feed into those budget line items. And where I think this also comes into play is two things. First thing is that yes, you can go ahead and make all these changes here, and as you make those changes, those budget items get reflected. But what if I decided to create a new scenario? And when you create a new scenario, it takes a complete copy of your budget and puts it into this area. And so, for example, if I can just simply create a new scenario, but let's just say I decide that I want to do a new healthcare facility. What it's done here is that it has made a full copy of that working budget, put it in this area. And now if I go, now I've made some changes here. You can see that this is in blue, which means I just made some changes. And if I go into my sheets area, I can see, and I filter out this with my working budget. Now I can see the changes that are affected just by that one change. And so here's where this comes in handy. You're sitting in an office or in a meeting with whomever, finance committees or finance people or CEO, board, and inevitably you're presenting your budget. And now someone says, well, what if we did this? What if our assumptions changed? And I know when I did that, I would say, okay, I'll see you in a week because I have to make those changes. But what if you could just go in here really quickly, make that change into that model, and then just make a presentation and say, okay, well, this is what's going to do to our overall, budget for the year. That's what this change will affect. So think about that from an organizational change, or maybe just, something happens in the market and all of a sudden you want to create a new budget. And this is what I was saying about being able to do things immediately versus that, that mindset of doing the budget once a year and then just doing the budget to actual analysis. This is where the magic is. This is where it really allows you to be proactive. So as soon as something changes, you can immediately go to your budget, change that one option, and see how that affects the rest of your budget. And then once it's in the scenario, you can simply decide at a certain point and say, you know what, we like this idea. We like these changes. You can simply come in here and just merge it with the budget, and then it becomes part of your working budget. So it's very easy to do from that perspective for you to have to be proactive. Another way that people are using this is by using this, creating a scenario where you could potentially, let's say, just like in that sharing feature, we said that, let's say we want to just share one location. Well, you can share that location, and then you can also share that scenario with that person. And what that means is that scenario that person's looking at, they can go ahead and make all the changes they wish. And then when you log in as someone who's going to approve the budget, you can see all the changes in there, decide whether or not, okay, you know what, these are good, or you can still make changes, and then ultimately decide that, you know what, I don't want to make, I either want to merge it or I don't want to merge it or whatever. Okay, go back to that person and say, this is what you're doing. So lots of great ways to manage that. I'm going to get out of this. And excuse me. The last thing I want to show you here is just from the actuals perspective. Remember that if you're working in your budget for a while and you want to bring in your actuals from Sage Intacct, you can do that. You can see here that I've got my actuals. You can see that. You can see the details either by summary or by detail. And each one of those will give you the opportunity to see the line items, where the budget line is, where it's being mapped to in terms of the dimensions. So you have the opportunity to see all that information. Here's the mapping. You can see each line, how it's mapped, whether it's dimensions, which dimensions it is. If it's not, then you can see that you can add those mapping there. And so again, another way to manage that budget in a way that's easy. And then the last thing I want to show you here is just from there's a history link over here on the upper left-hand area that if I simply click on this, I have an opportunity to either create a snapshot of my budget or a forecast. And you can do this on a monthly basis, depending on how much changes you're making or what you want to see, what you want to bring into Sage Intacct. And then if at any given point you want to revert to a specific version, you can simply click on switch to that version, and you can go ahead and see the items that are related to that. Okay. All right. So think about it. If you've ever had to do this in Excel, you would have had so many different versions of your budget. I still laugh when I think about how I used to have to compile all different worksheets in Excel. Then I had to name them: operating budget, final, version 2, revision 6. That was a nightmare. This is a great benefit to having it all in one source of truth. So I want to reiterate that it's, Sage Intacct Planning is a no-brainer. It's real-time collaboration with key stakeholders, giving them the opportunity to take responsibility for how they're spending on their budget, increasing that trust, providing that greater agility to respond to business and market changes. It is really revolutionary. Okay. All right. Well, folks, this is supposed to be a high-level demo. I hope that I've enticed you enough to be more curious about how this tool can help you with your budgeting. I am just going to bring this up again. I would imagine that if you do have some questions on how to get started, please contact your partner or channel executive. I don't know if there are any questions. I'm going to ask my colleague if there's anything that's either left unanswered, and we will close out if no one has any more questions.
There was just a couple, Sal, if you could answer them. One was, you talked about collaboration. If you were able to go back in, could you show how sharing is possible?
Yeah, very good. So sharing, there's a couple of ways to share. So right now, if you share from this upper link up here on the upper left right-hand area, I am sharing the whole budget. And so here I can share this, and all I have to do is type in the email address. I can give them an opportunity to either view or modify. And then beyond that, I can also exclude certain line items. Let's say, so if I don't want them to see salary and wages, I can simply click on that to give them the whole budget except for this item that says salary and wages. So that's one way to share the whole budget. But I also want to show you that you can also share it at the tree level, if you will. So if you want to share a specific, just one location, or if you want to share a specific department, there's an opportunity to do that from this tree area here, simply clicking on this and saying share. And now, again, if you look up here now, it's a sharing just general and admin. And again, all I have to do is type in the email address, can view or audit, and then also exclude items from here as well. I have the opportunity to do that. Okay. All right. Anything else, Craig?
Yeah, just one other one. You showed the history screen where you could create different versions. Could you show how they are used in Sheets?
Yes. So when you create a version here, so let me show you. So I have some in here already. So if I go to Sheets, okay, I can see my forecasts here. And then I've got my opportunity to look at the ones that I've saved. So once I choose this forecast area, this other menu here up on the top allows me to either do the auto save or the ones that I have physically saved, which anyone that says March forecast, this would have been the one that I would have saved in an example. And then you'll be able to see the information on that particular one. And again, if you want to see it versus another actual, you can do that. So you've got an opportunity to see versus actual versus forecast versus the snapshot versus the other forecast from a different month. All of these options become available as soon as you click on the one that says forecast. Okay. Anything else?
No, that's it, Sal. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for participating. Hope you all have a great day. Thank you very, very much. So long.